2 seconds, everyone. Thank you. All right, it's all yours, Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Evie. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's the middle of February. What is happening? I don't even know, but here we are, pushing forward. I would like to start with our welcomes to our joyful, happy Metro rocking KW family. And we have quite a few welcomes over the past week. Christina Coffee, come on down. Welcome, Christina. Alan, I see your face in real life on the screen, so we'll have to get your face in that little pretty square there. Julia and Charlie, and those are our welcomes for the week. You guys, I am bursting with excitement about family reunion this weekend, and there's a lot going on in the world. There are 26 of, oh, what's that? Rainbow happiness. There are 26 of us who have signed up to go either in person or digitally. If you are not going in person and you want to go digitally, you can still get your ticket. I'll throw it in the chat at some point during the meeting today, or maybe Evie can, or somebody will, and we can still, oh, look, oh my gosh, there it is. There's the registration. You can still get your ticket. Yes, it's East Coast time. So yes, like Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Gary's Vision Speech does start at 5:30 a.m. because, you know, they're in Florida, we're here. And the good news is it will be replayed and recorded, so you can watch it when you're awake, or you can be like me and be up with your coffee, like waiting with bated breath to hear what is happening with vision of the industry and state of the company. So if you want to participate still, it's open to everyone. There are breakout sessions for single agents with admin, expansion teams, leadership, and there's one more, luxury? No. Teams in general. So there's 5 groups that you're going to follow. If you have questions, just ask them. We're here to help you guide through it. It can feel overwhelming, even digitally, if it's your first time going. So just reach out, ask the questions. Let's get you connected and dialed in to grow your business. And we will be having a panel the following week. We won't have the meeting next week right after it because family reunion's wrapping up and people are traveling. So no meeting on the 23rd. The week after that, there will be a recap panel and like learning takeaways, biggest ahas, and how we can grow forward with the info from family reunion. So bucket fill for all 26 of you, 25, not counting me, who are going. Congratulations. Does anybody else want to fill someone's bucket?
Me.
Oh, Surreal.
Hello, San Diego Metro. It's so nice to see all of your faces and smiles. Beautiful people, and more specifically, focus on our new escrow partner, Nicole. Nicole has not been with us very long, and she is just freaking awesome. So please join me and raise the roof for Nicole. Please go say hello. She likes dumplings and she likes ramen. So bring her some food. She works really hard for all of us. Back to you, Sarah.
That is freaking awesome. I want to know what kind of dumplings you like, Nicole. Veggie dumplings, what goes on the mystery dumplings, not really sure. Thank you for that. Anybody else want to fill up a bucket before we hop on to the calendar and what's coming?
I do. I want to fill Nicole Del Priore's bucket. That girl is relentless, y'all. Can I just say, this poor girl, she has these clients that have probably put in over a dozen offers in the past month and keep getting beat out left and right. And no matter how hard she tries, no matter how great of an offer she put in, she just keeps bouncing back and bouncing back and bouncing back and keep going out there and working her tail off to make this happen for this young family. And it's awesome to see that kind of passion in someone. So Nicole, don't give up. I love it. You got this. We're gonna make it happen for him.
Thank you for that, Ed. That's awesome. Nicole, it will click eventually. And when it happens, it's the right house, right? All the other ones are
Right.
wrong.
And I have to say, like, a bucket fill to Ed, because like he has had to make so many phone calls for me, and he literally goes above and beyond for every one of my clients. And for these particular ones, he got extremely creative on a few of these offers, which I cannot believe they didn't take. But I mean, he's amazing, just amazing. I'm so grateful for him.
Look at that. We have a reverse reciprocal bucket fill. That is kind of magic I'm talking about.
Yes.
Nicole, I'm going to help you. He doesn't have to. He gets to. That's awesome. He gets to do that good stuff. And I want to pivot on that for a minute, you guys. I shared the article from CNN this weekend in the Facebook group about the interest rates going up another 0.5% by, and I'm not a mortgage guy, so I'm not taking the movement spotlight, but I just need you to hear this loud and clear from me. And maybe that's what you guys are talking about today too. 0.5 point by the end of summer, and they've already gone up. Like the average rate, depending on what you're searching today, is coming up at 4.1, whatever you want to call it. A year ago, it was 2.9, right? We did math on my masterminding this morning and looked at like the average person, if they're looking at $500,000, which is getting you pretty much nothing in San Diego, can afford $40,000 less house. We could take this conversation in like 12 different directions. That's not the most important thing, right? The most important thing is that you're having this conversation with your clients, whether they're selling, because where are they going? Or they're buying, because what can they afford? And are they currently pre-approved with real numbers now? Do you have to adjust what they're looking at? And then if they are selling, if interest rates keep going up, will they keep getting more and more and more and more and 2,000 million offers on their house if they wait and wait and wait, right? Like I said, so many conversations, show up in scripts, have the conversations there, ask the questions, talk to your coach, talk to whoever is your person in the office. If you don't know who that is, raise your hand and write in chat and we'll find your person now. Have those conversations with everyone in your world because they're reading those articles too and they're nervous. And if they want to wait it out and see like, well, we don't really have to sell, so we'll just like wait it out until the next cycle. The last time this was happening was 14 years ago. Inflation, rates going up, prices moving, things like this, the same trajectory was 14 years ago. So do they want to wait 14 years or do they just need an education conversation? So I know Movement will talk more about that, I'm sure, as we come up, but it was important for me to make sure you're hearing it from my voice and not just seeing the articles I share in our Facebook group. When I do share them, you guys, just take it to your people, go have a conversation, be that local expert, right? Okay. I'll go back to the agenda now. Sometimes I have to go wild for a minute. Don't worry, Evie, I won't go too rogue. Okay, Evie, training calendar.
Yes, ma'am. The usual for this week, we've got scripts practice with SJs Tuesdays through Thursday. There will be no scripts practice with Coach K because he will be flying to family reunion starting Thursday. So I believe I removed that on the calendar. So tech times with Nick, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:30 a.m. right after scripts. And then he has his open hour right after that. So please do take advantage of that. And then as Sarah had mentioned, family reunion is kicking off starting the 19th. I also want to remind everyone, we will be observing the President's Day holiday this coming Monday. So we will have the office closed. For those that are needing to have access to the office, please, please, please get with Ariana at the front desk before Monday. Alarm, how to use it, access on the app, keys to the elevators. We cannot emphasize it enough. Please get with our staff ahead of time. That's it. Thank you.
I promise you prefer to ask Ari to walk you through it and get you the codes and stuff now than to text me at like 10:30 at night and be like, hi, I think I'm going to set the alarm off. I don't know what's happening. Just ask the questions and we will walk you through it. Okay.
And Sarah, sorry.
Yeah.
For the entire week, like what you said, there's no, we don't have trainings from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. We will be back on our schedule Thursday and Friday. That's it. Thank you.
Yep, so Thursday the 24th, and that's because if you're following the family reunion calendar, it goes straight through, and then with travel days, there's no normalcy back for people's market centers until Thursday the 24th. So doesn't mean stop talking about real estate. It just means plan accordingly for the things you think you're attending. Right, Robert, would you like to give us the coaching updates?
Yes, I do, Sarah. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Beautiful Wednesday to you. I hope you enjoyed the heat wave followed by the rain. Nice little inclement weather we're having every now and then. So let's give a shout out to people in the coaching program this week. We always just leave this slide up every week for Paul Tolentino. He opened another escrow on his own listing. Great job, Paul. Keep up the great work. Sarah Hunter opened up an escrow, and this is by Team Alicia, by the way. Sarah Hunter opened up an escrow. She's in growth. Raquel got a new listing sign and coming soon. She's in launch. And Alicia welcomed John Watkins and Raul in Cisco, both joined Team Alicia in the launch program. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. And on Team Clarissa, Yonath got another BRE signed, and Dahlia opened escrow, closed her third escrow, graduated from the launch program, and is continuing her momentum and has joined the growth program. Great job, Dahlia, on that. And on Coach Carl, Aida took a third listing in the last 2 weeks, and she's in growth. Just a shout out to the agents participating in growth. We had a stellar month of January. Our growth agents that are being coached by our wonderful coaches, dun, 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 they achieved and they took in and brought in $145,000 in gross commission income in the month of January. I said $145,000 in the 1 month, for 1 month of just January. We accounted for in the coaching program 30% of the overall volume that was contributed by KW Metro. So if you're sitting there wondering, how do I get $145,000 in gross commission income? Reach out to me or one of the great coaches and see what coaching can do for your program, for your real estate business. It does work. We keep people accountable, and the numbers are proven, and the proof is in the puddings. All right, back to you, Sarah. And I'll be back later for risk management.
In the puddings. You guys, $145,000 in GCI in 1 month from the coaching program is freaking awesome rocket fuel. So if you feel lost and confused and you don't know what your next step is, especially for like agents who are in that growth place too, where you're in the middle of like, I've done some, but I'm not really sure what my niche is. When you're in growth coaching, it is really developing your specialty and your niche and like what's going to be your thing going forward. So it's a much more specific coaching as opposed to like when you went through launch as a new agent. And yeah, I have a coach. Actually, I have 2 coaches right now. So coaching is for all. Okay. Anybody feel like it's one of those wacky Wednesdays, like Mercury's not in retrograde anymore, but like Valentine's Day is over, and then we had rain and we had summer last week, and now it's winter again? Just me, or okay. Ed, Matt, Wes, Anthony.
Am I allowed to share my screen?
Somebody save me from, the madness of this Wednesday right now and talk to me about what is going on in the mortgage land.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So Movement Mortgage just came out with their impact report yesterday. So I just wanted to share with you guys what impact that we are having as a team for all the business that you guys send to us. We give back. You're not going to ever see Movement go out there with a multi-million-dollar 30-second ad in the Super Bowl or sponsor some stadium somewhere, because what we do is we give back to the community, and it's awesome. So last year we did $33 billion in loans for a company, which is pretty spectacular, and helped 110,000 families across the country, which is awesome. And we've been recruiting and signing on some really big names across the country. So people are seeing what Movement does and how awesome of a community that we have behind us. So it's really cool to see so many people joining us. $100 million, you guys, we invested last year in our Movement Foundation, which gives back to our local communities last year, $100 million. I could have easily sponsored a stadium. We could have had movement stadiums and a SoFi stadium, but we'd rather give it back to the communities, which is pretty spectacular. 5,300 people that are working for the company now in 50 states. And so 100 million last year, sorry, since we opened up in 08, it's 360 million. So, I mean, that's a pretty big jump in 1 year. It's a lot of money to give back. And what are we doing with the money? We are opening up schools in impoverished areas around the country, charter schools that are free for the kids to go to. So we're planning on opening 100 schools within the next, I think it's a decade or so. But we're definitely opening up 2 more this year, and it's creating jobs and sending kids to school that wouldn't be able to afford lunches and uniforms and stuff like that. I mean, that's what we're about, you guys. That's what movement's about. That's what we like. I just wanted to say it's amazing to see these numbers. Forget about being number 8 in the country. I mean, for such a tiny little shop to come up number 8 as a VA lender, and doing all these transactions, you know, and we're also servicing all of our own loans now. So we're not going to be selling them off. You're not going to be getting, you know, your bills from someone else. They're going to be coming from movement. So if anything ever pops up, we can jump right on it and fix it. So that's my 2 minutes. I think hopefully I didn't go over, but I just wanted to brag to you about how awesome of a company that you guys are partnered with, that we all have the privilege of working with. And yeah, so.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you very much, you guys. Making that happen. All of you
really
guys contributed to it.
Was someone else talking? That's really freaking awesome. That is like major. Put that on someplace where we can see it more. Hang it in your window in the office. Share that, like share the slides. That's the part of telling your story, you guys. And the story is so important. I love how you even like brought in, like, we're not doing commercials during Super Bowl. We're not spending $7 million on 30 seconds. We're not putting our name on a stadium. We're building schools. Like, that's amazing. And to have given back 100 million this year when that's been 300 million in so many years, you can see the action that's happening there. So bravo.
I love it. And we're all contributing to it. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Nicole, I don't know if I saw your face. Nicole Sastre. Are you here? I didn't check participants. Is she here, Evie? She's not here. She's not here. So Nicole is our amazing escrow partner that got a shout out.
She got her booster shot yesterday and is feeling really icky.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
she's working, but
yeah. I saw her on new agent orientation this morning, and so I just assumed she was here. So you guys, if you haven't met Nicole yet, please do. She's a powerhouse rock star. I know Cyril gave her like an awesome shout out this morning. Apparently she likes dumplings. We don't know veggie or meat. We'll figure that out. And here's what I want you to understand about using your in-house people. Like when we bring people in-house to us, yes, they're out of house. They're technically a separate door. And so anyone can go there, and we go into business with people who are here to be your best advisors and best people to get the job done. Be available, get the job done, know their skill set inside and out. She's so good at her skill set. I actually was like, she was telling the new agents this morning, if you guys were on orientation, way too specific. I was like, whoa, we got to go back to like A, B, C, D. We're not ready for all that yet. So she is a really awesome human. If you haven't reached out yet, please do reach out, throw your next business, in her direction to say, hey, I want to meet you. And they think you're awesome. I think you're awesome. And try the people out who we're talking to you about. So anything to add to that, Ash?
Yes, it's fun for me because Nicole and I started the same year in real estate at the same company. So that was 1999. And for those of you who don't know, I started in this industry as the assistant to a title rep.
Wait, back in the 1900s?
Yeah, 1999. And she started as an assistant to an escrow officer. So we've got years and years and years of experience at this point, and we were finally able to land her this year. So it's fun.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks for that. If you guys have any questions, holler, reach out, connect. And I know we have one property pitch to get to before Broker Bob takes over and fills our brain with all the broker updates. Surreal.
Right, I'm back in the house. Thank you, Sarah. Oh,
Twice
and I
in one
see that's
day.
up already. Evie is on it. Thank you. I wanted to say, I love San Diego Metro because we still party like it's 1999. So thank you, all of you guys, for that. Hell yeah, 2022, like 1999. So yeah, I don't have just one coming soon. I have also a coming soon. So I'm very excited over here. The first one coming soon is on the MLS, 4332 E Overlook Drive. Location is El Cerrito. It's south of College Grove. If you don't know that location, it's very special, very exclusive, and you definitely want to do your homework to find out more about that. Condition of the home is just pristine. It's gorgeous inside and out. You got to see it to believe it. The upgrades are up the wazoo. My sellers have been pimping that place out for the last 2 years, and it's got to be the nicest home in the entire community at this point in time. No kidding. Before you call me for some information, because you will have a buyer and you will call me, please check out the MLS. I'm very thorough with my descriptions and all the details. Check out the docs. There is a termite report, as well as the list of all updates and upgrades, which will make your head spin literally, because it's just that incredible. There's a couple additions. The second bathroom and the garage has been fully finished, quote unquote, converted. My clients did not pull permits on those. However, there is a home next door that got a bathroom permitted. So, do your homework for your buyers and all that stuff, but so you know. And finally, we have priced this jewel very aggressively at $829. There's a comp that sold in the last 2 or 3 weeks at $815. And it's very, very, a very different caliber that we're talking about here. So I'm super excited. We'll be having open houses on the 26th and the 27th. That will be your only chance to check out that property. And of course, after you check the MLS, please feel free to reach out to me. The coming soon, I'll get the paperwork done over the next few days. It's going to be in Imperial, and it's a very special property. It is in livable conditions and will attract first-time home buyers, investors that want to buy and hold, and investors flippers. It's very attractive in all these different ways. I'll be able to give more details most likely in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's a corner lot, and we're looking to price around 600. Yes, I just said 600. Look at the number of homes that you can get for that price. I don't think you can find that many. So if you want to find out more, stay tuned, and I'll tell you when it's coming. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a great day, San Diego Metro. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Get out there, y'all. Go get it sold. Susan.
Thank you, Sarah. My apologies for no camera. I went straight to my desk this morning and still haven't made it to the shower, so I apologize. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I just put up this day before yesterday, in Oceanside. If you've had any clients say, please, I want a beachfront property, but my budget is $1 million. Here you go. This is a beachfront condominium with sit-down whitewater views, 2-bedroom, 2 full bathrooms. It's in Oceanside in one of the San Miguel units, 600 the Strand North, unit 22. We've listed it for $950. It'll likely sell for something over $1 million, but probably not terribly far off. So this is a really interesting opportunity. It is a fixer. It was neglected, so it's going to need new kitchen, new bathrooms, new flooring, etc. But that's why the price is what it is. A recent comp sold for 1.2 in there 18 months ago. So if you guys have got somebody that's telling you, I have to see the water, HOAs are $475. It has 2 side-by-side parking spots. It's really it's going to be extremely active. So if you've got anybody looking for something like that, please reach out to me. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Susan, will you please write some notes in the chat about that as well, so people can
Sure.
catch up,
Absolutely.
since there was no visual. And then if anybody else has any coming soons, please put them in the list for the spreadsheet, and write them in the chat right now for conversations. And then anything else we'll take to the Facebook page if it's not in the chat right now, so that we can give Broker Bob his quote full time, even though I already robbed him of a few minutes. Take it away, sir.
Only 10 minutes, but that's okay. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I had this beautiful presentation and PowerPoint put together. And then unfortunately, I don't know what happened. I went to go open up my computer and I opened up the document and it was corrupt. I have no idea where the document went. So I had this beautiful PowerPoint that no longer exists. So, and I spent hours putting this thing together so that you guys can have a visual. And I apologize. So we're just going to play Broker Bob's game today of what he needs to talk about. So he made a list. So here's the list. So here's what we're going to talk about. I've got a major announcement, and we're going to review a few forms that are new that are causing some agents some questions, because Mark and I get a lot of calls on them. And I got, anyway, you'll be pleased. I got some stuff. So let's get first to the major announcement. For those that remember, a year ago, we had implemented, we use ZipForm Broker Edition for you guys to write your contracts. ZipForm Broker Edition is the broker edition of ZipForms, meaning it's basically your personal edition, but it's really stored. It's our personal edition for you guys in the entire brokerage. You also have, as your membership with SCAR, CAR, and NAR, your personal edition of ZipForms. Well, the ZipForm Broker Edition we were going to eliminate last year, but I was able to negotiate and say, well, give me another year, because technology is changing. Companies are buying companies and merging and doing all this stuff. And I was able to put off another year of making this change. Unfortunately, the time has come. We cannot use ZipForm. We're not going to be renewing our ZipForm Broker Edition version of ZipForms because the bill was $10,000. And that is up from $450 a year ago. That's a huge jump because another company bought them out. And rather than pass that cost on to agents, I'm like, I can't do that. They already have their own version. So we're going to be moving away from ZipForm Broker Edition within the next month and a half, and we are going to be putting into effect, basically, we're going to go back to you using your personal edition of ZipForms, and integrating that into Command and DocuSign rooms. So I know there's a lot there. So don't fret about it. What I want you to just understand about that is we're going to make this process as simple as possible. Basically, you're just going to a different login when you're gonna go write your contracts. That's really all it is. And I have dropped into the chat box in a document to help you with that. And Clarissa was kind enough to make this up with Mark earlier today. And I'm going to pull it up on the screen so that you can kind of see what we're talking about. So hold on, give me 1 second. And you know what? Yeah, I did put the right one in there. Okay. So it's a pretty easy process. Clarissa's done a really great document. You're going to log into your So here's what you need to remember is you all have DocuSign as an added bonus for being part of Keller Williams Real Estate, KWRI. That's given to you, the free version. You don't need to subscribe to DocuSign. You have your own version with KW. So you're going to log into your DocuSign account. And the hint is it's your KW email address that it's probably associated with. And you're going to watch that video on that link that I just sent you. And you're going to follow exactly what Clarissa put together in order to get this set up so that you will integrate within DocuSign all the information you're going to need to start doing your transactions within zip form or DocuSign rooms. And I hope that's not too confusing, but that's kind of what it is. Mark's on the phone. Clarissa's on the phone. Did I miss anything?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
All right. So to make it kind of less complicated, just think of it that Command is kind of our big house that we've all incorporated that has little rooms. We've now built Command and car forms has now been able to fully integrate within DocuSign. So essentially we're moving from the platform Zip Forms Broker Edition, that one last room that we have kept all our furniture and our contracts in, and we're gonna be really integrating it within Command. So it might sound very complicated with the DocuSign rooms, the Zip Forms. I can assure you we're just trying to move it all, and you will find that after you get over the initial hurdle of setting it up, that it will be all integrated in Command, and it will be so much easier when you are in escrow. So, because compliance is already done in Command, setting up your commissions is all done in Command, your contacts are already in Command. It's just going to be one less thing to kind of go outside and then come back in. So just want to let you know, and the document that Robert put up is just the first step to just get it set up. So look at that, see if you have any questions. Also, our MCTT Nick will come also up to speed to be able to help anybody who has issues with this part one. Just to let you know, it'll be all good. Deep breaths. Who like me hates even packing, let alone moving from one room to another in a house, right? Like moves, blah. But keep that in mind. It's kind of like a move. So, but just one room. So just wanted to bring that out there. And we're all here to help.
Thank you, Clarissa. So one question, John Fields, why? I get it, John. It's stressing. But if you guys have been in this business long enough, and Ashley and I can remember when the MLS decided to upgrade and the freak out. We used to do classes for the entire community, the real estate community at our office. We kind of use it as a recruiting event. But whenever there's a technology change within this industry, and this isn't going to stop. So you need to embrace the change. And one thing that's constant in life is change, and especially when it comes to tech. Tech is going to challenge you in more ways than one. As companies buy, merge, sell out, stuff goes away, stuff becomes better. So what we're trying to do is now, stop the hard part, because the great thing about what we're doing now is all that stuff, as Clarissa said, when you create your contracts in these DocuSign rooms, which is basically within Command, you're not going to have to now, once you send it out to be signed, it's automatically going to go into your Command account. So your TCs are going to love you because it's going to be less work on them. They're not having to then upload stuff into Command. It's all going to be like a turnkey solution that it's going to be so much easier for you, so much easier for them. And it's not that big of a hurdle on this one. So just remember that. And yes, everybody got a free DocuSign service account. So if you don't know what that is, Mark, how would they find that out? To find out their DocuSign service account?
Well, many of them agents are already using that account. And if you're still paying for DocuSign, you shouldn't be. That would be one way to know that you're not using the correct account. Another way would be if you receive an error message that says you've run out of envelopes. That doesn't happen with a service account. So if you encounter either of those two situations, reach out to one of us, Clarissa or I, and we will help you figure out the correct DocuSign service account that you should be using. And it's just a different username and password, really.
And the other way you will know is when your broker sends you a mean face because you're attempting to have me sign something that's not in a DocuSign email. it's coming from a different digital signature platform, which I do not want to sign, it shows that you have not integrated your DocuSign within Command. So take advantage of that. And it's so much easier for me because I sign hundreds of DocuSigns on a daily basis. And if it's not via DocuSign, it's coming from another digital account. It's a lot more work on my end to do it. I don't mind doing it, but it means more work on my end, which means you're going to owe me more dark chocolate bars. And that's, so Judy asked, will we have access to past transactions in zip? Well, the broker always maintains the files. You as agents are not responsible for maintaining the files, but we always keep a record of all the transactions that we have. Now, if you want to migrate from the Zip Form Broker Edition, some accounts you're working on right now, some transactions you're working on right now, and bring them over into your personal version, there is a process to do that. Because we do know there's going to be this process. You're probably all working on 5, 10, 15, 20 different transactions with separate clients, and you don't want to have to go recreate everything. You can easily bring them over. And Nick is getting up to speed on how to do that as well too. So hopefully that's not too bad of a news for you today. It's just technology. Technology won't replace the agents, but technology will replace the agents that don't embrace it. Okay, remember that. Okay, here's another announcement. There is this cottage industry out in the real estate community right now of attorneys targeting agents that have a personal business real estate website. So this is for everybody that maybe has another website that is not a Keller Williams website. So if you have a personal website for your real estate business that you did not have made through Keller Williams, it has to be what's called ADA compliant, American with Disability Act compliant, meaning if a person with a handicap goes to the website, they'll be able to need to navigate through it, basically. So what they're doing is they're targeting agents that have these websites put together that are not ADA compliant, and they're sending them basically a notice with a bill for $8,000 to make it ADA compliant. And they basically, you're now being sued to fix it, or you just pay the bill. And most people are having to just pay the bill, and in some cases they're $8,000 because you hire an attorney, you go to court to prove that it is or whatever, and it basically it's just cheaper to pay. So be aware, if you have a website that's for your real estate that is not done through Keller Williams, it has to be ADA compliant. Otherwise, you will probably be hit by one of these attorneys that are after the real estate industry really, really big right now. Any questions on that? Okay. Mark.
Broker Bob, how do you know if your website is ADA compliant?
You ask whoever built it.
Okay.
Yeah. So whoever built it, you ask if you know who that is. If you don't, that's it.
And there's different levels of ADA compliance as well. So, some of it has to do with, text to speech, or text to audio, and some of it has to do with, the ability to enlarge. And some of those features are in, your operating system, but this is one of those things you have to be careful of. So yeah, contact your web developer and ask them if it's ADA compliant.
Okay. We have a new affiliated business arrangement disclosure in ABAD that is now in all the transactions. Mark has updated this to reflect who we have for affiliate partners. So this is already preloaded in your templates, meaning when you write an offer for a buyer, you are by RESPA law required to disclose that Keller Williams has what's called affiliate business arrangements. And our affiliate business arrangements are with Keller Mortgage, Keller Covered, KWRI, Escrow Partners, and Movement Mortgage. We are required as a broker, and you're required as an agent to disclose this to a buyer at contract consummation. Now, this doesn't mean that you're using them. What it means, per RESPA, we have to disclose if we have a financial arrangement with any of these businesses which we do in essence. In some degrees, we're half owners of the escrow company. But in Keller Mortgage and Keller Covered and KWRI, we don't own that, but we have, we're required to disclose this in our transactions. So when you're writing a contract and you're explaining this, it really is to the benefit of, I'll give you an example. Why do we have to disclose that Escrow Partners is an affiliate? Whether we use them, let's say you do use them. Well, there's an incentive sort of to use them because we own 50%, Keller Williams, the office owns 50% of it, which means we share in probably 50% of the profits. And if you're directing that buyer to use Escrow Partners, because an Escrow Partners will benefits the office, you're required to show, hey, we have this arrangement. Even if you don't use them, though, you're still required by law. And this is what Mark gets a lot of pushback from agents. Well, I'm not using any of these companies. Well, that's fine. It's just a disclosure. We're required by law to put this into the transactions, okay? And it has to be done at contract consummation, meaning when the buyer signs the purchase agreement, not after. Has to be during when they sign the purchase agreement. That's why it's in the templates. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. New form that came out is the TOPA. And we're getting a lot of questions on the TOPA. So now we'll get some knowledge for you guys today. So the TOPA is the Tenant Occupied Property Addendum. And for those of you that came through the COVID period with me, you knew that as a broker, I hated it whenever you wanted to write an offer for the seller to remain in possession or a tenant to remain in possession, if the end game was for the buyer to take full possession of that property because of the eviction moratoriums that the wonderful County of San Diego supervisors put together that made it virtually impossible to get anybody out. Hopefully we'll never live through that again. But this TOPA now is a new addendum for that particular tenant occupied property when a buyer buys this property. And reading through the form, if you go through section 1, A and B, it kind of spells out tenants to remain in possession, buyer to take the property subject to the rights of existing tenants, or B, property to be delivered vacant. And item number 1 is the property or units, and you can put how many units are, shall be delivered vacant without existing tenants. And if seller after exercise, and so section 2 basically addresses, well, what kind of happens when you make an offer on a tenant occupied property and the seller says they're going to have the tenants out 5 days prior to close of escrow and the tenants don't move and you're scheduled to close, but you can't get the tenants out. What happens? This is what section 2 does. It basically says, if seller after exercise of good faith attempts and subject to applicable law is unable to remove existing tenants by close of escrow or 5 days prior to close of escrow, buyer may cancel this agreement and buyer's sole remedy shall be the return of the deposit and buyer's reasonable out-of-pocket expenses for inspection reports and appraisal fees under the agreement, or buyer may elect to proceed with the transaction with the tenants in possession and waives any claim for other damages or compensation arising out of the tenants remaining in possession. So this is a big change from the past because and this has happened multiple times with tenant occupied property. So if you're making an offer on a tenant occupied property, you need to be aware of this. If the intention was for the seller to have the tenant vacate, and then all of a sudden it's nearing close of escrow and that tenant has not moved, there was a real conundrum that existed. One, the seller ended up being in a breach of the agreement because they can't give to the buyer a vacant property because they have this tenant in place. And then the buyer didn't really want to buy the place or was afraid to close escrow because then they would have been left with the tenant that they would have to evict. And since we're not attorneys and we can't advise them on how to do all that, et cetera, it was a real mess. So this section 2 basically gives that buyer two options. If they've removed all their contingencies, and according to section 1B2I, the buyer can effectively now still cancel, get all their deposit back, plus reasonable out-of-pocket expenses for the money they put in, like inspection reports and appraisal fees. So if they have to, all right? Or the buyer can opt to move forward knowing that the tenants are still in there. And now it's the buyer's responsibility to evict that tenant. Now, if that happens and the buyer wants to move forward, you are then now required to say, hey, Mr. Buyer, if you're going to take this property with the tenant still in place and you're going to close escrow, knowing that they're there, you're going to be liable for evicting them if you need to. So now this is real estate law that I can't advise you on, and you need to speak to a qualified real estate attorney that can advise you on what you need to do next in order to get those tenants out. So it's a real prickly path you can't advise. So it's kind of a risk that that buyer might take it. And it's sad you've got that buyer to the finish line, the 5-yard, you know, you're at the 5 yards and you're almost there for that touchdown. One more touchdown and the frickin' Bengals would have won. But anyway, that's another thing. But knowing this, you're so close, but no cigar. So obviously you're always going to reach out to me, Broker Bob, what do I do? I'm not going to go through all the other nuances of this TOPA, but no, there's also something on the back of it called the Rent Cap and Just Cause Addendum. And this basically clarifies that if a tenant is remaining in possession, then what is the amount of rent that the new buyer will be able to increase, and then how can they evict? Okay, so that's the addendum to the TOPA. Lots of legal stuff. It is what it is. Any questions on that? I know that was a mouthful.
Yes, Bob, thank you so much for covering that today. Very pertinent to what I'm looking for. In 1B2 over here, the language about the inspection and the appraisal leaves a lot of stuff in the air, I feel. How do you go about having that discussion to explain that to the sellers?
What do you mean? I mean, you as a listing agent?
To me, yes. And to me, it sounds like if the seller cannot get the tenants out, even though that's what was agreed upon, now the buyer can back out, get their EMD, and should expect payment from the sellers for their inspection and appraisal costs. Am I understanding that right?
Because that's the contract they're signing. So it's your good question. Really great question there, Surreal. So Surreal brings up a really good point. Your duty as the listing agent is to advise them, here's what this is saying in this form that you're signing, that if you can't deliver that property vacant like you say you're going to in the purchase agreement, here's how it spells out and here's the remedy. And this is what's going to happen. The buyer can come back to you and say, you know what, I'm going to cancel, you're going to give my EMD and all the reports I got, all of my inspections, secondary inspections, and appraisals, you're going to have to pay me. So make sure that seller knows exactly what they're signing in the purchase agreement, and then this addendum as well too.
Hey, Bob,
The purchase agreement already covered for the fact that the seller says they're going to deliver the property vacant 5 days prior to close of escrow. It already said that. Now, this actually defines the course of action that could happen if they can't. Whereas in the past, it didn't. And now it had to go through the mediation process. And that's much better now because everybody knows exactly what they need to do and they're not fighting back and forth about, well, I couldn't get the tenant out, so I'm really not liable. It's the tenant's fault. No, ultimately, it still always is the seller's responsibility because they signed the contract that says, yeah, I'm going to deliver to you a vacant property just as if I'm going to move out of the house. You know, if I don't move out of the house, you should be able to come back and sue me because I'm in breach of the agreement. Anytime a party is in breach of the agreement, they are ultimately the ones responsible. This just spells out what that responsibility is.
Well, thank you, Bob. Is there a path following 1B2 where the buyer can back out, get their EMD back without the seller having to pay for the inspection reports and appraisal?
Well, that's, case by case basis, but I'm assuming the buyer hasn't removed all their contingencies. And if they haven't removed their contingency, especially their inspection, they could cancel based upon that. If they have an inspection for an appraisal or a loan and they can't get that done, then they can cancel based upon that. Whatever contingencies they put in place.
My question is from the listing side of it. So to protect the sellers that they wouldn't have to pay for those reports and appraisal, is there a path for that?
No, not if you use the TOPA,
Hmm.
which you're advised to use the TOPA.
How would you enforce that if you're representing the buyers and the sellers are resisting to refund the reports? Is that just, do you go to litigation?
Notice to perform.
Notice to perform, but that's where lawyers get paid handsomely. And
I mean, that's what the parties have
mediation.
agreed to it's what the parties have agreed to by signing the documents. And then you just bring it up to them. Well, this is what you've agreed to. And I dropped a link in the chat, which, I think all of you should take a look at that link. And it's a new publication from CAR, Consumer's Guide to the 2021 RPA. There's so many questions about this that you have to answer for your clients, your customers. That book is $20. Why not buy a copy of it and have it available? And you can use it as reference when you're having conversations with clients, or you can loan it to them if they'd like to dig deep into it. It's inexpensive. You can also get an electronic version of it if you'd like.
And it's Broker Bob in a book.
So
All
I
the
have
questions.
a question, Robert, if I may.
Yes, Susan.
Would you advise when representing sellers, obviously you would want this form to be filled out initially with the offer versus showing up with it, a week before escrow is supposed to close. But
Of course.
But how do you advise listing agents to? I mean, I would be cautious of this as a listing agent. I would be all over it as a buyer's agent, and I just want your feeling on. I just would like your sentiment on that, if I may.
Susan, if I can jump in and say that the TOPA is addressed in the new RPA. It is in, I'll get the section here. It's in grid 3M1, describes whether the property is going to be, or 3M2, excuse, that's not it. I'm sorry, 3M3 describes whether the tenant occupied units at the time the contract purchase agreement is consummated, whether the tenants will remain in place or whether they'll be gone. So it's an item that is pre-agreed in the purchase agreement in the offer process.
And this was always agreed to in the previous purchase agreement, whether it was going to be delivered vacant or occupied. This just clarifies now what happens if it's supposed to be delivered vacant. I mean, it spells that out. So it saves both sides time, because in the past, it didn't spell it what the course of action would be.
Right.
Now this spells it out.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Any other questions on the TOPA? So remember, as an agent, if you're writing an offer on a tenant occupied property or you're representing the seller, you need to understand this form. And you need to understand what the implications are if there's a tenant in there that's not being able to be removed, and how to guide your principal properly. It's a pretty prickly path.
Yes, Bob, I'm so sorry. I'm just, I would love some clarity about the path on the seller side, listing a property with tenants in place like that, where there would be the verbiage in place to protect the sellers from having to pay the inspection reports and the appraisal.
Well, there is no, unless you counter that out in a counter offer. You can counter it out, but then the buyer would have to agree to it. And then you know what you're left to? You know what you're left? You're left with them going to mediation and going through courts, and which is going to be much more costly, because then they have to consult with an attorney. See, the cost of an inspection and appraisal is what? $500 for an inspection, and how much is appraisal?
It's less than $1,000 for both.
Okay, $1,000. So the cost of an attorney is $250 minimum an hour. And that, trust me, that attorney is going to rack up 4 hours quick.
Even if on the counter that says you won't get this back, you could still potentially take them to litigation.
Yeah, because the buyer's probably going to prove damages that they're out of pocket, and then they're going to go. You're going to go to mediation. It's just going to be a bigger mess. This cleans up the mess, is your phrase you should be telling them. It cleans up the mess. It limits. It mitigates the amount of money you would spend if you don't deliver this to us the way you should, the way the contract is reading.
Because then at that point, you will tell your sellers that we could still potentially go to litigation, even if we counter that part out.
Yeah, you would still. I bet you the buyer would probably go to small claims court to recover the loss, and in 95% of the times, small claims courts tends to favor the buyer.
Even if it's properly countered, added in the counter offer?
You never know what's going to happen in a court of law.
That's fair.
Mhm.
Is it?
But so the answer to my question, though, the path would be to use the TOPA and to add verbiage in the counter saying the buyer would have to foot the inspection reports and the appraisal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's required if there's tenants in there.
I would be careful about adding clauses into that to that degree. You know, it's okay if you guys craft clauses, simple clauses, but when you start to make changes to the boilerplate in the agreements like that, that's you start to tread into the area of practicing law, and we really don't want to go there. So I'd recommend you do not do that unless it's under the guidance of the client's attorney who said, use this language, then I'm okay with it. But be careful with that.
Okay. Escalation, and I agree with Mark, as your broker, go with the contract documents, because here's what's really important. If you're ever in a litigation and E&O has to bail you out and there's a $10,000 deductible, standard forms are what we are required. This is a standard form by our E&O carrier for them to cover. And if you're not using standard forms as your broker is guiding you, you will be 100% responsible because you're trying to go outside of what I'm advising. And you'll be paying the $10,000 if it gets to that. So better safe than sorry. Save yourself $10,000.
And maybe even find yourself in a case where you've been charged with unauthorized practice of law, which is a real bad thing.
So I just dropped a couple things in the chat box. One is escalation clauses, and the other one is mending the appraisal. There's some quick guides. But this is a big thing because you guys are all trying to get offers accepted, and you're waiving appraisals and waiving inspection and waiving all this. You need to understand that's a prickly path with your people. And if you're going to do an appraisal waiver, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. This Q&A that Carr put together, even Mark and I had to go through it and say, what the hell are they saying there? And there's actually a typo in it as well too. But I wanted to let you know, I have a better one in the KW Metro folder, Google folder, of the right way to write an appraisal waiver. And it's highlighted here in the middle of the page right now. And that is directly in my guidance in the link I just sent you. So bookmark this when you get to writing if you're going to write an appraisal waiver, or and the buyer's going to make up the shortfall. This is kind of the proper language. Again, as always, anytime you add a clause to a contract, your duty as the agent is to advise them to seek the advice of an attorney if they have any questions about legal issues in the contract, because you're not an attorney. Whether or not they do it or not is another story, but your duty is to make sure you tell them, and you also memorialize that in an email to show that you've told them. That will get you out of legal issues. We just settled $10,000, unfortunately, from a case that the agent paid $7,500, we paid $2,500. And the problem was with the case, they did not memorialize their conversation about the foundation. I can't speak to the merits of the case, but the foundation, what they claimed that they were not advised to make sure that it was checked again and again. And our agent had no communication showing them to go make sure they inspect it. And so unfortunately, we lost that case, $7,500 out of the pocket of the agent. Wasn't a good day for them. And we are at our time, unfortunately, because I didn't have the full time, but we'll get to the other stuff next time. But do I have any questions on what I've shared so far today?
Did you drop in, where's the that verbiage for?
It's in the Google Doc link that I just dropped in.
Doc, okay, wonderful. Thank you, Bob.
That's all. These documents are accessed in the Keller Williams Metro Google Drive folder. So if you ever want to go in there and poke around or have nighttime reading when you can't sleep, go to there and read some of those. Okay. All right. That's it, you guys. You are free to go and have a great day. And we'll see you all next week.
Hey, Sabrina,
Happy
check your
family
messages.
reunion.
Just send you a message.
For my love, going to leave.